Hi, welcome to another video of teaching Algebra 1. In this video, we're looking at section 1.5, which is about manipulating equations and formulas. In this lesson, we will learn about solving for a variable in equations with two or more different variables. We will also learn about manipulating other common formulas. So let's first begin with solving simple two-variable equations. So in this first question, we're given that 3y minus x equals to 9, and we're told to solve for the variable y. So what this question is asking us is to make y the subject of the formula. So we have to do a series of operations so that y can be left out alone and everything else is on the other side of the equation. So we can try this using inverse operations. We can separate the 3y term by adding x on each side. And by doing so, we cancel out the negative x and the plus x, giving us 3y equals to x plus 9. And then we can divide each side by 3, giving us that y equals to x plus 9 over 3. Now let's look at number 2, which says that y equals 5x minus 6x. And we're also told to solve this equation for x. So by looking at this equation, we can see that we have two common terms that have x in each of them. I can see that I can simplify this side of the equation. So if we subtract 6x from 5x, we get negative x. And then we just have to isolate the x from this coefficient of negative 1. And we can do that by multiplying each side by negative 1. So we get that x equals to negative y. Now let's manipulate equations to solve for a variable with three or more variables. Now in this equation for number 1, we can see that we're given three variables. We have x, k, and y all in one equation. And we're also told to solve for y in this equation. But something's different because we can see that one side of the equation has already isolated the variable y. But this is not completely isolated because we still have the variable y in another part of the equation. We have y in this negative ky, and we have to get rid of this y from here so that we have all the y's here and no y's on this side of the equation. Let's begin using inverse operations. I see that I can add ky on each side of the equation so that all the y terms can be moved on this side of the equation. And by doing so, this cancels out and we're left with 3 plus 5x equals to y plus ky. But then we still have two terms of y. We still don't have a single y term. So we can factor out y from each side. So from here we get 1 times y giving y, plus k times y giving us ky. So we get k over here. And that equals to 3 plus 5x. So now we have successfully isolated y from these two terms. And now we can just divide each side of the equation with 1 plus k. So we get y equals to 3 plus 5x over 1 plus k. Now let's look at the manipulation of common formulas. Common formulas are those that you use commonly in your everyday life. So those can be like formulas for the volume of a cube, or volume of a rectangular prism, or the surface area of a sphere. So in this question, we're given a rectangular prism with some dimensions. We can see that this rectangular prism has a length of L, and we know L equals to 40 units. And here on this side, we can see that the width of this rectangular prism is 6 units. But we don't know how long the units are for the height. So we have to find the height of this rectangular prism. But we're also given that the volume of this rectangular prism is 480 cubic units. So first, let's come up with a formula for the volume of a rectangular prism. Well, we can see that this rectangular prism is built in 3 dimensions. There's the length dimension, the width dimension, and the height dimension. So to find the volume of this 3D object, we can simply multiply each of these 3 dimensions. So we get that the volume of this rectangular prism is represented by the product of the length, width, and the height. But there's a problem with this formula. We want to directly manipulate this formula so that we get height instead of volume for the direct formula. So we can manipulate v equals to length times width times height so that we can isolate h from all of this. So I see that I can isolate h by dividing each side of the equation with length and width. So if we do that, we get v over lw equals to lwh over lw. And then the length and the width on top and bottom cancel out. And then here we're left with h equals to volume over length times width. So now we've successfully manipulated this formula so that we can directly solve for height given the dimensions and the volume. So we're given that the volume is 480 cubic units. So if we plug in the volume for 480 and then we plug in the length and the width, we can solve for the height. Now we know the length of this rectangular prism is 40 and the width is 6 units. Now I can simply just calculate this and I'll find the height. So we get 480 over 40 times 6, which gives us 480 over 240, and then 480 over 240 is equal to 2. So we know that the height is equal to 2 units. Now let's look at the manipulation of a simple interest problem. So in this question, we're asked how much money must you deposit in a simple interest account to earn $2,000 in interest in 10 years at a 4% annual interest rate. So we can start by writing a formula for simple interest. We know that simple interest is represented by the letter capital I, and then I equals to the principal amount times the rate, which is this, and times the time at which the interest is placed. So we know that I in this question is 2,000 because this person wants to know how much money to deposit in a simple interest to earn $2,000. And we know that the rate is 4% or 0.04 in decimal. And we also know that the time is 10 years. But the only thing that we don't know is the principal amount. And that is how much money the person should deposit. So we can manipulate this formula to solve for the principal amount. And then we can plug in the I, R, and T to solve for the principal amount. So I see that I can solve for the P here by dividing each side of the equation with RT. So by doing so, we get I over RT equals to PRT over RT. And then the RT's cancel out and we're left with P equals to I over RT. And now I can just plug in the values. So to find the principal amount, we know that the interest is 2,000. And then we divide it by the rate, which is 4% or 0.04, times the time, which is 10 years, and we put that in years. And now we just calculate this, and we get that the principal amount is $5,000. So this is the amount of money that the person should deposit in the simple interest account to earn $2,000 in interest in 10 years at a 4% annual interest rate. And this is pretty much it for section 1.5. And it's also the end of chapter 1 of Algebra 1. So I hope you liked this video, you understood the concepts of manipulating formulas, and also some of the applications like solving for the height in the rectangular prism and the simple interest. Please leave a comment in the comment section and provide some feedback so I can improve my videos in the future. And thanks for watching.